All righty. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another night of College of the Siskiyous EMT class. I hope you're all looking forward to the nice break you're going to get for not having to be here for 3 straight days, 72-hour break. Wow. You guys made it through.
Half the class.
We did 8 out of 12 days. Right, we're going to take 3 days off, then we're going to do 8 out of 12 again. So we're going to talk about kidney infection signs and symptoms. This is a very, very, very common complaint. Also, a telltale fact that won't be on the test, but you will see on a weekly basis in EMS. This condition in the geriatric community, the elderly community, is one of the leading causes of altered mental status. No, I don't know the etiology of why, but often when there's confusion of unknown etiology and they go and they do a CBC on them, a blood test, they find out, oh, look at that, they've got increased white blood cell count, and it's a urinary tract infection, which is what UTI stands for. Those are your signs and symptoms: burning with urination, cloudy urine, chance of rain, flank pain, fever. But I think you should. Any questions? Kidney stones. Remember we talked about gallstones? This is the same etiology. The urine crystallizes and becomes a real rough rock, and then gets hydraulically pushed from other urine down through your urethras. Outrageously painful. Generally caused by dehydration. A lot of people in the fire service get this because they don't hydrate properly, especially on wildland fires on hot days. It's common. Kidney stones and gout. Results of dehydrating yourself on fires. What?
What is gout?
What is gout? It's actually not that much different than kidney stones, but usually it presents in your feet. And what it does is it's too much uric acid, and it affects the tissue of your feet and causes you intense, unbelievable pain. And once you get gout, you have it for life. You gotta take medications for life and hydrate well.
So you're telling us to hydrate.
Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. When you pee in the bushes on a fire, it should be clear. Anything less than clear, you're not hydrating enough. Any questions? Urine is supposed to be clear, and it's not supposed to have color.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I was doing station coverage somewhere. I don't even know what station I was at or what county I was in. But I went to the bathroom, they had a color urine chart, how dehydrated you are. And it ended with clear, and it said, good boy. Any questions? These people will be in agony. This will break down the toughest of tough to their knees. Any questions? Now, this is what you don't want. Renal failure, also known as kidney failure. Someone messaged. It's probably a student late for class. Someone else just texted me. All right. Do you have any questions about your kidneys dying? You have to take care of your kidneys. No, you can save them. Yeah, good nutrition, water, medication, they're savable. Believe it or not, kidneys are hard to kill. Once they're dead, they're dead. That's with everything.
Yeah.
Except Marvel Comics. Once you're dead, you're dead. NDC.
My ex-wife got down like 50% for high blood pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Weird thing happened. Anyway, ruined her. She just couldn't do that downward spiral. was it just down so far gone?
Well, yeah, once your kidneys are dead, they're dead. Then you gotta have to go dialysis the rest of your life or wait for a kidney transplant. Yeah, they can't come back, say with heart tissue, brain tissue. Once the tissue is dead, it's dead. But if it's dying or damaged, you can still deal with it. Hypoxia, hypertension, disease process, lots of things that cause it. Diabetes is one of the worst things for kidneys. Any questions? It could be sudden or chronic. And here's the other thing. When you go into kidney failure, it's life-threatening because it can't process the toxins. You become hyperkalemic and it can kill you very quickly. Any questions? Female reproductive organs. We're going to go over the OB/GYN section, which is coming up before you know it.
What does that mean?
It means it'll be here very soon.
No, not
What?
OB/GYN.
OB/GYN. Obstetrical is OB, meaning having babies. And GYN is gynecological, which is the medical science of the specific female anatomy.
I see.
Let's see what you guys have learned. You've been dispatched to a man vomiting blood. What do we do first?
Scene
Scene
safe.
safety. You and your team of your BSI, you've arrived at a residential home. Patient has been vomiting blood. You have your partner of fire rescue on scene and does not you do not appear to need spinal immobilization. Any questions? Primary assessment. That's what comes next. I didn't ask you. Still waiting for the caffeine to kick in. Elderly male vomiting blood with ashy colored skin who is cool to the touch. Kind of like Snoopy with his glasses. He's a cool dude. He's alert. He feels awful and has been vomiting blood. He's breathing adequately, but he does not have radial pulses. He has a weak carotid. Is he a priority patient?
Yes.
What's next?
History.
Yeah. He's ill of vomiting. He has no known drug allergies. That's the NKDA is the abbreviation for no known drug allergies. He takes Plavix, low tense, and Inderol. Is that a problem with someone vomiting blood? What's the problem? The Plavix is a blood thinner, so it's not going to clot well. Low tense and Inderol, yes, are blood thinners. Matter of fact, Inderol is the leading beta blocker. Somebody had asked about beta blockers. Yeah. Past medical history, high blood pressure, TIAs, and ETOH abuse. What is ETOH? Alcohol. Well, someone once told me it was a chemical name, but then that doesn't work either. So it doesn't work on the periodic table. It's the abbreviation ethanol overhead, ethanol oral hydration. I don't know.
That's good. Yeah, I will go with that.
Brian says, yeah, so it is a chemical term. So take that, guys. Well, we looked it up on Google. Yeah.
It's on the internet, it must be right.
But 10 years ago, a class came with a hashtag. It said hashtag Brian says, and we got way out of control. Don't do that. No, because they're hashtagging things I didn't say, and then they're going, did you really say that? It's like, no, I didn't say that. Events leading up to it. He was barbecuing when he felt very bad and began vomiting blood. Good news is if it's dark enough of a GI blood, you won't be able to tell between the barbecue sauce. Yes. What's that? Last ins. That's in SAMP, that's in S for OPQRST, isn't it? Oh no. Wow, no one's ever noticed that before. The L disappeared.
That might be.
Yeah, I'm sure it was a 12-pack of beer and some chips.
I wish that was mine.
Never, I wonder how long that L's been missing. No one's ever noticed.
Yeah, I had a full family size pack of Cool Ranch.
OPQSD, onset while barbecuing, provoked, unprovoked. Burning feeling in his throat, not radiating, it's been going on for 30 minutes. What's next? The L. Unable to get a blood pressure. Pulse rate's 140, rest rate's 28. GCS 15. Everything else is negative. Any questions? So let's go back and look at this again. Should have been more of a history here. Huh, it's not there anymore. Somebody's messed with this. No, somewhere like in the secondary, it says he's vomiting a horrific smell worse than anything you've ever smelled in your life. That he was jaundicey. Yeah. What is jaundice? Yeah. What's the result of? No, not kidney, liver. Hepatic insufficiency. So anything's wrong with that guy based off the positive findings of your assessment. What's your primary impression? Very good, Katie. Gold star. Can hear. He said esophageal varices. 35-year-old mildly obese woman with fair skin complains of pain in her right upper quadrant. She loves pizza. What is most likely wrong with her? Kidneys? Maybe. Not likely. How about acute cystitis? No. How about cholecystitis? Huh?
Better than that.
Yeah. It's an infection of the girl that answers the phones for Jack Bauer. You know who Jack Bauer is. Chloe cystitis. Sorry. Nobody even knows what I'm talking about. How about appendicitis? Is that more likely than Chloe cystitis? How about pancreatitis? You guys like Chloe the best?
Yeah. Hey.
Look at that. 59-year-old male says sudden onset severe lower back pain. He's very restless and diaphoretic, and he's got a pulsating mass umbilicus. That's not good. What should you do? Vigorously palpate his abdomen.
No.
A bad answer. Gives vodka for transport. Is that a better answer than A?
Yeah.
Almost anything.
Put him in a position, same position to transport at once. Good answer. Is it a better answer than B? Get a paramedic out and give him pain medication. Is that going to save him?
No.
No. What's the best answer?
B.
47-year-old male presents abdominal with his abdomen is distended, guarded. Your most important consideration of this patient should be what? Transported supine. Why would you not want to do that? What? There's a better reason not to put him in position.
Is it because he's guarding, that means when he unguards, it hurts more?
No. No. It's a real easy answer. It's real basic and really important. Let's look at this. So abdominal pain 3 hours. That is distended and guarded. Why would you not want him supine?
It stretches it out.
Okay, so what would that cause? So laying in spinal will help with blood pressure. No. Let me ask you, have you ever had abdominal pain before?
Yeah.
What usually helps relieve it? Yeah, go to the bathroom, maybe throwing up, vomiting. What's gonna happen if he vomits and he's supine?
Airway obstruction.
Yeah, so we don't want to put in supine.
That's good.
How about, you like that one?
Yeah,
Is that better than A?
much better.
That's a good one too.
Not
Is it better than B?
No.
No? Alright. That's a good answer. Is it a better answer than B?
No.
I don't think so. How many D's? Nobody? How many B's is a boy? Yeah, I think B is probably the best answer. I'm gonna go with you guys. What is colic caused by? Yeah,
Twisting.
colic. One of the first churches started after Easter. Lots of breakoffs right now. They're on the verge of bankruptcy.
Like some kind of blockage in the intestines.
I don't think so. I think it's some more gas. No, I think it's colic causes, yeah, it's like a gaseous problem. I know it's not that. I'll throw that one out for you guys. Oh,
Better than A.
psst. That's a good answer. Let's see. Does it have anything to do with blunt trauma? No. What?
What? That's part of the other.
Vigorous.
I don't know.
That's part of the other questions.
Exactly. They don't want you to do
Just
that.
do an elbow drop with the corner.
So what's the best answer here?
B.
B is in boy. So as you guys know, all the answers are B. Which of the following is a late sign of shock to the patient with acute abdominal pain? Hypotension. It's true. Tachycardia. Well, that's a symptom, but is it a late sign? No, it's pretty early. Tachypnea, that's breathing too fast. Someone texted me. How about diaphoresis? What do you like best? Me too. A, B, C, or D, Braden? No, who's A?
Should have known that.
All right. What just happened? Oh boy, do you guys have a lot to learn on this.
Yeah. Still more.
Thoughts for the day. What type of sweater would you want if your life is on the line? And each choice made by that person made the difference if you live or die. Think about what kind of EMS provider you would want that to be. Then become that provider.
Wow.
Any questions? Who needs coffee? I have a yard sale. You guys notice I'm wearing black and white like that?
Maybe blue is not black.
I'm not. I was gonna make a really good joke. I know. How about now to look at penguin? Huh? Oh. If my aunt was a nun and I had no idea.
Damn it, Chris, you're not supposed to know words like that.
Learn something new every day. All right. At the end of the presentation, you should learn and know the basics of the endocrine system. We are only going to scratch the top surface of the endocrine system. There are entire medical fields. There are doctors that can certify as endocrinologists. We're not going to have you certified as endocrinologists today. We're just going to scratch the surface. We're going to be really, really focused on one very important endocrine gland and hormone. That's very important to EMS and EMTs. We're going to listen to the functions. We're going to listen and learn why insulin is such an important hormone. It's secreted by the pancreas. And we're going to list the signs and symptoms of a hyperglycemic and a hypoglycemic emergency, because the EMTs and paramedics, even after they're certified, somehow still get it confused, and I don't know how. They're opposite ends of the spectrum. Understand the signs and symptoms of a hyperglycemic emergency, and list the differences to a type 1 diabetic and a type 2 diabetic. Then we're going to learn about blood disorders. Specifically, we're going to learn about the horrific disease called sickle cell anemia, which is an awful, horrible thing that I would not wish on anyone. Even all the people I dislike, I would not wish sickle cell. What is a hormone? No jokes. It's a chemical substance produced by a gland in the endocrine system that has special regulatory functions. In other words, it's sent out to the nervous system for a specific action. Any questions? For instance, insulin's specific action is to grab a glucose cell and take it out of the bloodstream and into a human cell, so it can be exchanged for a lactic acid, metabolized, and turned into lactic acid. Thank you. Without insulin, the glucose could not get across the barrier from the blood to the cell. It has to have insulin to do that, except for the brain. The brain there's no blood-brain barrier. Glucose goes directly to the brain and doesn't need insulin. It's like a duty-free station on a cruise ship. Any questions? That's a good analogy. Yeah.
I ain't gonna lie, I've never heard anything compared to it.
Now you'll remember it.
I will.
So I gotta tell you, so I'm driving back from Wairika with Dad, and I see a big Caltrans lit sign, you know, with the letters, the big orange lights and letters, and it says low left shoulder. And all I could think of was, oh, cool, we get to see a guy with an unhealed AC separation. That's all I could think of. And I was gonna go back, I was gonna go get off at Abrams Lake, drive back to Truck Village and get on to do it again and take a picture and put it on Facebook and say that. And I thought, less than like 1/100th of a percent of the population would get it. So why put the effort in? So I didn't.
They're friends that you want your age, so plus.
You're gonna do all the way back around.
Yes. Yeah.
When you take the puns and bad jokes too far.
Yeah, when you're driving around, yeah, at $6.50 a gallon, probably isn't really worth it. What did you think was gonna happen when you cancel all the drilling permits in the Northwest and ban all petroleum transports by rail?
I was expecting that order with Austin, as we call it, it's like, hey, there's prices.
Yeah, if you can't get this product, the price is going to go up. All right, these are the glands of the endocrine system. I'm not going for big words tonight. Endocrinological now. That's all right. All right, the hypothalamus. What's funny about the hypothalamus?
Absolutely not.
Yeah. It's in the center of your brain, a little tiny thing. Right by the pituitary gland. And the thyroid. Then you got parathyroids. They're the ones running EMS for the endocrine system. Then you have the adrenal glands. That actually, the adrenal glands do play a big role in EMS. That's where your fight or flight comes from. Then you have the penile body. And your reproductive glands. And last but not least, the pancreas. Let's break these down individually. There's the hypothalamus. No, it's not in a zoo. Runs your autonomic nervous system, the pituitary, your body temperature, thirst, hunger, and other homeostatic systems, including sleep and emotional benefit. I didn't say benefit, activity. Any questions about the hypothalamus? We have time tonight to play hungry hypothalamus. All right. And that Max is leaving. I don't know. The pituitary gland is the next door neighbor to the hypothalamus. It's a little pea-sized body that is critical in the function of controlling the growth and development of the other endocrine glands. It decides who gets to grow and who doesn't. Kind of like a regulatory commission. So if the other glands want to grow, they have to lobby the pituitary gland. They join your brain, basically, yes.
It's absolutely no escape.
Even in your own brain. Thyroid gland. It's right there by your cricothyroid cartilage and membrane, or it kind of wraps around it. It releases the epinephrine for the fight or flight. The dopamine makes you sure everything's okay in your head. It's what regulates your metabolism. Hanging on to it. Just don't let it go. Let's see, don't let it go. So don't let go. Cool. People have never seen that. So let go, bull. We're born at it. I would not say that, no. But it's a good story. Well, it depends on how you want to look at it. Is it accurate about fighting fire? I've never seen anything that is accurate about that. None. Does it somewhat identify life and emergency services? A little bit, not much. There are some definite traditional tones there with the nepotism and the interrelationships, especially in older Italian, Polish, and Irish neighborhoods and cities and other areas. Huh? Located at that. Wow. Yeah, exactly. You just wish you had a cool letter trip.
I don't want to wash it, so I'd rather you guys have it.
Truck 1620. It takes that as slave, put a little 24-foot roof ladder on it. Well, no, I'll have a come along. Go up. All right, parathyroid glands. These can really mess your body up. This is how much calcium grows in your bones and also how much it clots up your heart too. An active parathyroid gland. Any questions? No questions. I actually found out I was hypocalcemic on my last blood draw. Usually my blood draw is perfect straight down the line. This one I went the very end for calcium. Which explains why I get numb lips every once in a while. I looked it up, it's hypocalcemia. It's like, oh, that's in my blood work too. Need to drink more cheese and eat more milk. Really?
Calcium supplements.
Much easier. All right, there's your adrenal glands. They sit like little Burger King crowns on top of your kidneys. They control your fight or flight. They release your epinephrine and cortisol for your metabolism. Oh, the camera's going crazy. There's somebody inside the house. Any questions? No questions, huh? And then we have the penile body. That influences your sexual development. You have all kinds of neurotransmitters like somatocin, norepinephrine, serotonin, melatonin. They all like to rhyme. Any questions about the penile body? And last but not least, the one we're going to go over in great detail, the pancreas. Very, very important. You cannot live without insulin. If your pancreas is toast, you're going to have to inject artificial insulin the rest of your life. Don't want to lose your pancreas, people. Huh?
Noted.
move forward. You guys still writing down about the pancreas, drawing pictures. All right, glucose in cells. Glucose cell or your regular cells in your body are no different than a car engine. What does a car engine need to run? Gasoline and oxygen. Cells the same way, they just need glucose and oxygen. They call their gasoline glucose. However, glucose can't get from the bloodstream into the cells. Can't get through the wall. Like unicorns outside of Noah's Ark. Let me in. Can't get in.
No, it's
Yeah, Noah's Ark. He was this little 3 foot tall old guy that talked to God and learned about a 40-day rainstorm.
no, I know about it.
Fortunately, Home Depot had this big boat kit that he was able to buy and put together. All right. So, brain does not need insulin, but every other cell in your body does. Only the brain cells do not need insulin to bring glucose across. Any questions? Oh, some copyrighted material. Here we go.
When our body is working normally, the foods we contain proteins, fats, and carbohydrates are broken down into simpler, easily absorbed nutrients. One of the carbohydrates is a form of simple sugar called glucose. It is the main source of energy for the body's cells. Glucose circulates in the blood where it is available for body cells to use. Glucose is the main source of fuel for organs. Insulin helps cells take in glucose and convert it to energy. Insulin is secreted by the pancreas. Insulin attaches itself to cells throughout the body in places called insulin receptors. Once attached, insulin acts like a key in the cell. Sugar or glucose to the liver, fat, and muscle cells. It's a source of energy.
Sounds like the music's winding down.
Yeah.
All right, so type 1 diabetes. It's called insulin-dependent diabetes mellitus. It's abbreviated IDDM. That is type 1. It often comes on in childhood from a virus. Nobody really knows, but it can happen when you're an adult. Your body stops producing insulin, so you have to take it artificially. And you got to adjust to what you're eating and your exercise of the day. So it's always a challenge. Some people manage it very well. Other people struggle with it until they die. In some places, they call it juvenile diabetes because it often comes on in kids. Anyone have any questions about what insulin-dependent diabetes is?
Different levels of, is it just they don't produce any insulin?
Or almost no insulin. And then we have type 2 diabetes. And this is when your body is still producing insulin, but for whatever reason, your cells become intolerant to the insulin. They don't work when the bouncer goes, hey, I've got some glucose. It's like, yeah, they don't open the door. So, or, as in the case of most cases, people get so big and there's so many cells in their body, their pancreas can't churn out enough insulin to meet the needs of the body to become a type 2 diabetic. That's why it's cured with exercise and diet. Reduce the number of cells, be able to produce enough insulin to meet up the cells. Make sense? Now, type 2 diabetics don't have to take insulin though, because they produce enough insulin. They have to take medications like metformin that help insulin get into the cells. It's like having the muscle that shows up and collect the debt from person you loan money to. They're not gonna get the money back, but you show up with Bubba, the best baseball bat, but they let you have that.
I guess sometimes you produce the same insulin that you were producing before, but it's not it's called insulin resistant. Your
Yeah.
cells they
So
need,
we'll let it
they
in.
need more insulin basically than they used to need because you desensitize. You eat so much sugar that the cells got desensitized.
Yeah.
Desensitized. Yeah.
This doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
So, think about what this causes. Copyright. You people are horrible about this copyright stuff. You gotta stop pirating and stealing stuff. Yeah, so disappointed in you as a class. All right. So what happens in type 1 diabetes when you don't produce insulin? You keep eating, but sugar never gets to the cells. Where's that sugar go? Stays in your bloodstream, just keeps elevating. So your blood sugar gets super high. Then what happens is your body goes into what's called anaerobic metabolism. And it starts breaking down and eating itself. Your body starts eating its own fat cells and its own muscle cells to create glucose. And the byproduct of that is ketones. You get ketone acidosis. That's what they call it, diabetic ketoacidosis. Believe it or not, there are millions of people in America, because America is the poorest of the poor people in America are overweight and over nutritionalized, believe it or not. In America, we have got it so good and have done so well in this country, we have to worry about losing weight. The rest of the world has to worry about gaining weight. That's how good we have it. So a lot of people here, the latest fad for dieting is to intentionally put yourself into ketoacidosis. They call it a keto diet. That's exactly what you're doing. Is you're not eating any carbohydrates so that there's no glucose production inside your digestive system. So your body has to eat its own fat muscle to when you lose weight. I mean, you'll lose weight doing it, but it's actually a medical condition that's treated. So people are intentionally putting themselves into a medical condition to lose weight. It's pretty desperate. I know, I tried it for 2 years. It does work, but it's a horrible way to live. It's not sustainable. What else can I tell you about this? It'll kill you. So the other thing too is in order to do that, to break down those fats, that muscle, your body needs more water. So you become extremely thirsty. So you drink a ton of water and then you urinate a lot because your body's trying to get rid of that ketoacidosis. So it's going to somebody said kidneys. That's actually partially correct. The kidneys go into overdrive trying to get the ketones out of your blood. So you'll end up with a fruity smell in your breath and a fruity smell when you eat. You can actually smell the ketones. And actually in the nutrition stores, they actually now sell ketone strips. So you can make sure that you put yourself into ketoacidosis. You'll strip it to your feet. They'll tell you that it turns color if you have the right ketones. Seriously.
Is that's the name of the name of diabetes is sweet.
Sweet pea?
Yeah.
It's Latin for sweet pea.
Yeah. Well, the mimesis or something. Mimesis or
Diabetes insipidus, yeah. I'm learning so much in this class. Seriously, no one's ever brought that up. No one's missed the L before. I finally learned what people are saying on the videos, thanks to Juan Carlos. I've never had any idea what those people are talking about. Do you know Latin? No,
everybody knows.
a little bit. Well, Latin and Spanish and Italian are pretty close, aren't they?
Italian special.
All right, any questions? So, what's going to happen when you have diabetic ketoacidosis, especially if it's untreated or undiagnosed? You're going to get really thirsty. You're going to get lethargic. You're going to pee a lot. You have a fruity tone in your breath, smell in your breath. And over a period of a couple of days, you're gonna slowly get weaker or more tired. You have hot, flushed skin and dry. You be dehydrated, and that's the diet. That's what happens until you get insulin into your body. Any questions? And they're gonna call that, it's got 3 different names. And it all comes out to being the same thing. Diabetic ketoacidosis is the medical term for it. So some people will call it hyperglycemia because your blood pressure or your blood sugar skyrockets. You can't get the cells. And sometimes a real old term for it in a layman's term is called diabetic coma, which is commonly confused with insulin shock and hypoglycemia, which is the other end of the spectrum. But they say diabetic coma, they're actually talking about DKA, diabetic ketoacidosis. Any questions? So you actually don't see this a lot, the diabetic ketoacidosis in EMS, because most of these people go see a doctor because they're not critically ill. And they get diagnosed that way. Once in a great while, you'll actually run into DKA on EMS, but you probably won't catch it in your assessment. Pretty rare that people catch it. You gotta be really good. What you'll see a lot of, almost on a weekly basis, is hypoglycemia and insulin shock. That's when insulin shock is when someone injects themselves with artificial insulin and they give themselves too much or they don't eat enough, or they do too much extra, or they don't do enough exercise. For too much exercise, they burn all the glucose up. Because what happens is you inject artificially, all the dude says, we're here, they grab all the glucose, goes to the cells, and if you don't replace that glucose, then you become hypoglycemic. Then you get cold, pale, wet, you lose conscious rapidly, you have seizures, and you die. Questions?
So that's insulin shock?
That's insulin shock, also known as hypoglycemia. So here's back to diabetic ketoacidosis. Those are the signs and symptoms. There'll be test questions on this. Got to know the difference between the 2 ends of the spectrums of diabetes. Diabetic ketoacidosis, also is diabetic coma. That's when there's no insulin in your blood. So your blood sugar's through the roof. You're going to see vomiting, abdominal pain, 2 small respirations, deep labored respirations. They're trying to blow off that extra ketoacidosis. It's going to smell like acetone or fruity smell in the breath. These people often get mistaken for drunks. They have lack of coordination. They're sleepy. They got a sweet smell in their breath. They get pulled over and arrested for drunk driving all the time. Not all the time, but it happens often. And then they're hyperventilating. So what has happened a couple of times, a couple of documented cases. It used to be when people hyperventilated, they gave them a brown paper bag to rebreathe their carbon dioxide so they could keep them hyperventilating, which is just mind-boggling. But when you do that to someone that's not having a psychological event and they're actually having DKA, it's actually killed people. Because it's continuing to increase the problem. The blowing off of the gas is trying to fix the problem. You have them rebreathe that gas, they actually die. Never, ever, ever have someone breathe into a brown paper bag. The worst thing that happens is hyperventilation. If it's psychological, they'll pass out because they'll get too alcoholic, and then they'll wake up and it'll be a complete reset for their body. There's never been a negative finding from psychological hyperventilation unless you give them a brown paper bag. Or the other favor to some old medics in the is put them on a non-breather, but don't turn the oxygen on. That's a very bad gross negligence idea. Any questions? Yes.
Acetone and fruity seem very contradictory to me.
Why?
Acetone.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Like nail polish?
Yeah, you like that?
Doesn't bother me at all.
I like it.
And I don't-
Yes.
It's too super to me. That's shit to the smell. I don't consider that acetone smell.
Yeah, I like the smell of acetone. I also like the smell of gasoline vapors. I think benzene filters are the worst things that ever happened.
Yeah, I like 2-stroke mix, but
Yeah, say. Williams.
So what provoked people to start using the brown paper bag thing?
Because what they would do is, oh, excuse me. But they're not, people are hyperventilating. They're blowing off too much carbon dioxide. So by breathing with a brown paper bag, you're rebreathing your carbon dioxide. But all that does is keep them hyperventilating, which I don't know why someone would want to do that. Eventually their blood will get so alcoholic, so all the carbon dioxide will be gone, they pass out. And then they wake up again like a minute later and they're fine.
Yeah, so it doesn't sound like there's any good reason.
It's a
to use
horrible
it.
idea. Kind of like when firefighters spray water on themselves before they went into burning buildings and they all got steam burns. Sounded like a good idea at first, hosing yourself down, cool yourself down before you go in. In reality, it was a horrible
Yeah, 'cause then you should
Taking out
boil
the
the
pan
water.
with a wet
Huh?
rag, like taking out the hot pan with a wet rag.
idea. Yeah, very horrible idea. Instant steam, instant heat transfer. Yeah, convection transfers heat faster than. That's why we use water for heat exchangers and the people don't have they don't teach a lot of physics and heat transfer in schools. Very true. When I worked at Roseburg in the 400-degree dryers on hot nights and hot days, I used to go outside and soak myself with garden hose. And people go, "Aren't you gonna take your shirt off?" Do that? It's like, no, I want my shirt on because that's gonna hold the cold water out there. It's gonna give me more evaporation, heat transfer. They go, "What?" It's like, yeah, I know exactly what I'm doing. Trust me. I got labeled as a weirdo, but it works. All right. Hypoglycemia. So you inject too much insulin or you don't eat enough sugar or carbohydrates after you've injected yourself with insulin. What happens? You rapidly lose consciousness. You get cold, pale, wet, tachycardic. No fruity smell or breath, though. Nothing worse than a product that's up. Yeah, they look like they're insulin shock, but I don't smell any acetone or anything. It's like, yeah, you wouldn't. It's the opposite.
Did we definitely?
I don't know where they find this. They didn't take Brian's EMT.
Brian,
Yeah,
so is hypoglycemia not enough sugar in the blood or not enough sugar in the cell?
not enough sugar in the blood. But that's the problem, though, because then there's no new sugar coming in. So once the cells burn the sugar that's in the cells, the insulin brought in, there's nothing to replace it with. So that's why it comes on rapidly and they rapidly go downhill. Well, that's a good one too. I've seen that a couple of times. So they inject themselves with insulin, but they're too late. They're so far behind the 8 ball because they're confused because they're hypoglycemic. They forgot they inject themselves with insulin, so they brought up and inject themselves again. Oh,
Making it much worse.
way worse. Any questions? There you go. Altered mental status, aggressive or confused behavior, hunger, seizures in the very end of it, fainting, mimic strokes sometimes. They'll look like they're having a stroke. Cold, pale, wet skin, diaphoresis, tachycardia. Oh my goodness. Look like they're in shock. That's why they call it insulin shock. That one?
Yeah.
Glad to be of assistance. Only half the brain's getting glucose, the other half isn't. Ran out of glucose right about that point. Couldn't perfuse the whole brain.
I got a question on type 2 diabetics.
Okay, we're about to go over that. Go ahead, ask me.
Well, in theory, alcohol turns into sugar in your system.
Yeah,
So do you see a lot of alcoholics that are type 2 diabetics?
No.
No.
Usually it's overweight people, usually a lot of emergency services workers. What are the leading risk factors of firefighters, cops, and medics? Yeah, 'cause they have a constant, what's it called, cortisol release. From what's called, we went over chapter 1 or chapter 2, first week of class. From the cortisol release, part of, I'm not remembering the term, give me a second. When you have little stressors all day long, what do they call it? Not compilation stress. Cumulative stress reaction. Thank you. Did you say that at first?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. So anyway, cumulative stress reaction for decades.
Yeah.
Can cause type 2 diabetes. I know. Any questions? Let's cap Saturday off. I have to be in Reading at 7 a.m.
So can type 2 diabetes be caused just from stress? Or is it also diet?
I'm not educated enough to answer that question. Yes, it stress is a factor in type 2 diabetes because it has something to do with the cortisol release or the constant cortisol release that affects the intolerance of insulin. As you don't necessarily have to be overweight to have type 2 diabetes. All right, any questions on the signs and symptoms of insulin shock, hypoglycemia? There's the differences, because you're gonna test questions on signs and symptoms and what you should do or what you think it is. As you can see, it's side-by-side comparisons. These are opposite ends of the spectrum. You will, go ahead. Yeah. The question was, is there a demographic you see more prone to DKA? And without question, that demographic is low socioeconomic. Sadly enough, the people that are in low socioeconomic conditions do not have access to insulin. You got to keep refrigerated. And if you don't have the ability to keep things refrigerated, you're not going to be taking care of your insulin very well. Often don't have the money to get the insulin. And often live a lifestyle that is not compatible with management of diabetes, i.e. if there's a substance abuse problem or an alcohol use problem, which oftentimes puts people, I'm not saying all people in low socioeconomic status are alcoholics or drug addicts, but most alcoholics and drug addicts end up being in a low socioeconomic situation because all their money goes to drugs and alcohol and not to insulin, housing, and food. Does that make sense? So yes, you also, the demographic for higher DK will be lower socioeconomic situations. And then there's those occasional people that aren't in lower socioeconomic that just don't take care of themselves. Any questions on the differences between DKA, diabetic coma, hyperglycemia, and insulin shock hypoglycemia? Opposite ends of the spectrum. What do we do for hypoglycemia? O2. If they're conscious and can follow commands, you may give them glucose. Do not give them insulin. If they cannot follow simple commands, do not give them glucose. Load and go, try for an ALS intercept, For paramedics starting IV, and if they're not confident of starting IV, they can at least inject them with glucagon and convert the glycogen in their liver to glucose. It's better than nothing. But this entire world has volumes of incompetent people in every profession. What you talking about? Exactly. Any questions? What do we do for hyperglycemia? Maintain their airway, O2, transport. You will have a question on the test. Saying, what is it that will get them back to definitive situation? The answer is always going to be hydration and insulin. Any questions? All right, now we're ready for type 2 diabetes. These people don't take insulin, they take metformin. Very rare to see insulin shock in a type 2 diabetic. Pretty much doesn't happen. And they don't go into DKA either, but instead of DKA, they go to HHNC, which is smaller hyperglycemic, non-ketoacidosis, chaotic coma. And it has pretty much all the same signs and symptoms as DKA, but it's in a type 2 diabetic. Also, if this does not get corrected or they don't take care of their type 2 diabetes, it will lead to blindness, renal failure, and rotting of your fingers and toes off. So you can always tell they have to manage their type 2 diabetes. Well, first I cut my toes off, then my foot. Now I'm below the knee amputation. They just keep cutting things away from my diabetes. Like, dude, you got type 2 diabetes. You're not managing it. Take a pill and exercise.
It's too much.
It is, sadly enough, it is. It's too much for some people. So the insulin dependent diabetics, I know personally people I've grown up with that are insulin dependent diabetics that are on drugs. And the drugs are more important than the insulin, and it's got bad outcomes.
The worst patients is the pharmacy,
Yeah.
just because they never follow through. Very rarely.
I responded to a lady once. She had a heart attack. She was 94 years old.
Yeah.
And had been a diabetic since she was a child.
Yeah.
Which back in those days, you died when you were diabetic as a child. So she must have been like one of the first insulin people. And she had never needed to go to the emergency room for hypoglycemia. She had managed her diabetes for 70 years. Very impressive. It shows that it's doable if you want to make it work. And nowadays they got it made. I mean, they got the things in your arms that goes to your cell phone. You can check your blood sugar on your cell phone.
Yeah.
It's just so. And insulin pumps. It's like, oh, it's getting a little low. I'll just adjust my insulin pump. Any questions? All right, these are why animals keep proper nutrition. The very old videos, there's not much quality, so keep it small. That's a smart monkey. Any questions about diabetes? All right, now we get to go over hematological emergencies, which is not fun. So of these 3 diseases that we're about to go over, these are tragic diseases. So sickle cell disease is a vaso-occlusive crisis. It's when your red blood cells, instead of being round, they turn to the shape of a sickle. And it causes blood clots, it causes enlarged spleens, it causes you to lose parts of your body. Last I heard, there's still no cure for it. Real shitty thing to have. The red blood cells don't flow, it causes increased anemia, causes blood clots. And it breaks down the hemoglobin so you can't get oxygen nutrition to the cells. Yeah.
Is it type 2 diabetics that get hypoglycemia?
Not generally, they don't get hypo, or they get a little bit hyper, but yeah, because they don't take insulin, so they're not having that insulin shot hyperglycemia. So they get hemolytic crises from not having a high enough red blood cell count, and they get large spleens from blood clots that cause the spleen to bloat. Not fun. Pretty tragic disease. You end up dying from it, usually at a young age. African American males. It's the highest predominant. That's the genealogy. I don't know why or what it is, but it seems, and I think it's fact. African American males, they get this more than anybody else does. They're the highest population of it. And I believe it's hereditary, it's passed down. Hemophilia is the next one over, is definitely passed down, but it's weird. It goes from mother doesn't get it, but then the son of that mother gets it. Then that son has a girl, and then her boy will get it. That's how hemophilia is passed down. But this is, I don't know how sickle cell genetics moves across. I don't know how it works. But I know it's hereditary. It's predominantly males and African. Any questions? So thrombophilia is the opposite of hemophilia. We're going to do that first. Thrombophilia we've actually gone over. It's the leading cause of pulmonary embolus, heart attack, and stroke. Look at the risk factors. It's the same risk factors as embolus, stroke. Even drew you a picture of how it works. Any questions about thrombophilia? How do they treat it? Blood thinners. Blood. $1 billion business. So Xarelto. Seen the commercials?
Yeah, I think it is around.
This commercial is so good they make you want to have a blood clot. All those happy people running around without blood clots down, or without a break and bring.
Usually on fire.
Yeah. Any questions? Hemophilia. This is I have a friend that had hemophilia when I was growing up. It's not cool. It's just a horrible disease. So this is when your platelets don't work. So it's just a little cut or a bruise for most people is life threatening for these people. They often have to go and have an infusion of platelets. Or sometimes because they have no platelets that don't work at all, they just spontaneously start to bleed. Yeah, it's bad. Like I said, it's generally predominantly males, generally Caucasian males, and it's past the skips goes when they have a daughter, then the daughter's son will have it. Then that son has a daughter, then that daughter's son. That's how it gets passed over. Real weird. The genealogy works out.
So could they be like mostly fine if they just walk around with a
Yeah, as
4x4?
long as nothing happens to them.
Just have like a little
As
band.
long as they don't walk into it, bump their knee on a table or something. Fall off a bar stool. Yeah, trip over a curb. Slip on the ice, what's that? Can't play sports. Oh, I don't know. I don't know enough.
How common is hemophilia?
Not.
Not,
20,000 Americans.
that's not a lot at all.
I know a lot of people, and throughout my life, I've met lots and lots of people. I've only known one in my whole life. They're pretty rare. Huh? They die young. Yeah, the guy, he only made it 32. And he actually ended up dying of HIV from a blood transfusion. Because you get endless blood, you get blood transfusions 8, 9, 10 times a year. Well, he was 2 years older than me. He'd be 59 now, so he died at 32. So he died 27 years ago. So 96. Yeah, they hadn't even gotten a good, a real good Magic Johnson drugs. What are they called? Protease inhibitors.
Coming up with Royals.
Magic K.
Do they get hemophilia in breeding?
I don't think that's in the Windsor family now.
No.
Oh, the Russians are, so they're talking to Windsor. Well, they're just as inbred.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about the Russian tsars. I know they found Anastasia in a wall. Yeah. You didn't know that? I think they DNA tested, they proved it. Sorry. Found her in the wall of one of the castles. Just ripped her in.
She was shot.
Was she?
Yeah.
Well, forever, they didn't know what happened to her. That was the whole big thing in Russia. She was gonna come back and lead the revolution. She like died at like, what, 7 or 8 years old? Yeah, but not. I've seen almost every Disney, I've never seen Anastasia. I've never seen that one. I just know the story from world history. But I think it was only like 10 years ago, they actually figured out what actually happened. She just vanished in the revolution. That's what they did. They used to just kill the entire royal family and hide them. The chances of her escaping into the woods in Russia in wintertime probably weren't good. Yeah, not likely. Any questions about hemophilia? All right, let's see what you guys have learned. You've been dispatched to an unknown medical. What do you do first? Scene size up. You and your team have arrived and you have your BSI on. Who's on that call today with Adams violated the BSI rule? Yeah, almost had to fire him on the spot. Happens again, he's gonna be fired and homeless. So don't have a job anymore.
What do you do now?
Yeah. So what are you doing? You're with me and you have a student here. It's like, what are you doing? Yeah. What a lack of BSI respect.
By example.
All right. Scene is safe. You're at a single family dwelling. You find a patient on the floor surrounded by friends. She appears to be very altered. She's the only patient. You have a full team with you. There's no indication of needing spinal precautions. What's next? Primary assessment. It's an early 50s female lying on the floor. Her eyes are open, but she's and does not follow simple commands. So 4, 2, 5. What's your GCS? 11. She complains of the level of consciousness. Her airway is clear. Breathing adequately. You order high flow too. Is strong. Why? Because she's very altered. Patient has strong rapid radial pulse. She's pale, cold, and wet. She's priority patient.
Yes.
What do we do next?
History take.
Patient is altered. Her friends are unsure about allergies, but they do know she takes insulin. Ooh, that's a big finding. They said they think she's a diabetic, but you take insulin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took it for fun.
Last field, nobody knows because she lives in there. And that's it. Our friends came out to check the patient because she was not answering the phone and found her altered. What comes next?
Secondary assessment.
Secondary assessment. Blood pressure is 130 over 86, not bad. Pulse rate's 128, that's pretty high. Pressure is 20. Her eyes are open spontaneously. She's still, oh no, she's gone down. So now it's 4 to 4.
10.
So she's going the wrong direction, right?
That's supposed to go.
Everything's negative though, outside the fact, no, everything's negative. Based off your positive findings, what's your primary impression of wrong with this patient?
Hypoglycemia.
I heard a whole bunch of hypoxemias. I didn't hear what you said. Oh, same thing everybody else said. You're just incomprehensible. You're just mimicking. I get you. So the glass got 10. Did she get oral glucose? No, she can't follow simple commands. Bad idea. All right. Guess what? We're caught up again. I think. We're still 1 chapter behind. What is this? We got 33 minutes. We can do it. 37-year-old female, history of diabetes, shows successful urination, weakness, 2 days. She's on 100% oxygen, glucose level, blah, 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 2020. What is she most likely going to develop? Is it A, severe insulin shock? No. How about acidosis, dehydration? I wonder if somebody told you the answer to this already. Let's go to the next slide.
B.
75-year-old male, history of insulin-dependent diabetes, has chest pain, general feeling weakness, tells you they took insulin today and ate a regular meal 2 hours ago. He should not be having any diabetic problems. Although he's a diabetic, you should treat as experiencing A, hypoglycemia. Does he have any signs and symptoms of that? How about a stroke? Do you know primary impression of a stroke? How about hyperglycemia? Any primary impression of that? No. How about a heart attack? All right. You guys are smart. 28-year-old female, to be responsive to verbal stimuli only. Her roommate states she was diagnosed with diabetes and has had difficulty controlling her chickens. She's rarely tells you that the patient has been urinating excessively for the last 24 36 hours. Based on this presentation, your primary impression would be that she is A, significantly hyperglycemic. Yeah. B, experiencing insulin shock. No, has the opposite of insulin shock. Urinary tract infection, not a bad answer, but is A a better answer? D, same as B. It's got to be A. Yeah, that's an insulin pump. All right.
Why was the A a different font than B, C, and D?
What's that?
Why was the A a different font than B, C, and D?
Because it was tell you it was the right answer.
But it
No,
was.
I don't know why.
It worked.
All right, immunology, also known as allergic reactions. I can't believe they still do this. Any idea what that is? It's called a scratch test. Let's go over the cliff notes, just in case we don't get done with this, on what immunology is about. So immunology is about allergic reactions. So what is an allergic reaction? An allergic reaction is a hyper-exaggerated response by your immune system to a foreign substance. Now, it's physically impossible for you to have an allergic reaction the first time you're exposed to something, because your immune system has to have already assessed it once, determined that it doesn't like it. So when you're exposed to it the second time, it reacts. It might be the 5,000th time that you've been exposed to it reacts, or it might be the second. So how do they treat these? They can actually cure allergies. They know they cure them since the 70s. I know because I was one of the first patients to go through this in China. So they do is they do a scratch test. They take a spike board and they press the spike board into your back while you're lying prone on a treatment table. It hurts like that. Then they take every allergen known to man, which they have in bottles, and they pour the allergens into the holes they just put in your back. And they have them numbered. Then they watch and see what you're reacting to. And then based on what you react to, they diagnose what you're allergic to. So then what they do is they take everything you're allergic to and they pick your own custom potion. And they have you come in and they inject a small amount of that potion into your bicep or your tricep twice a week. And they measure your reactions. When you stop reacting to it, what it does is it keeps exposing your immune system to it, so your immune system figures out it's actually not going to kill you. Because that's what allergic reaction is. Your immune system thinks something that you're exposed to is going to kill you, so it's attacking it in a hyper exaggerated way. So then once you stop reacting to it, then they increase the dose. And then you keep going up and up and up until you get to the maximum dose. You don't react to it anymore. You're cured of those allergies. It does work. It's just a horrible, painful way of doing it, but it does work. So anyway, that's what it is. It's a scratch test.
Because they poke holes in you, it's not really a scratch, yeah. Like I said, you would think by nowadays, like I said, I got that in like 1975, they did that to me. You would think in 2024, they'd come with a better way of doing it, but they haven't. Yeah. You can actually even see the numbers.
Yeah.
The numbers for each vial they pour in. Oh, 51, that's oak tree. All right, thoughts for the day. You have absolutely no control what other people think, say, and do. Truer words have never been spoken. There's nothing you can do about it. However, you have 100% control on how you respond to what other people say, think, and do. You completely control that response that you give. The choices on how you respond makes or breaks your life in your day, in your patient's life, and how you move forward with your life is how you respond to what other people think, say, and do. So when you say you have no control over a situation, there could not be any more untrue words. You have control over every situation. You control the narrative from your end. You can have nothing you can do about shitty people in your life, but you control how you respond to shitty people and what you do to make your life better. Any questions? You can choose to be a victim or you can choose to be a phoenix. It's up to you. Ooh, is that good? All right, on to how to die in 10 minutes. So at the end of the night, it's true. Anaphylaxis will kill you in 10 minutes.
I thought it was 30.
No, 10. You can be dead in under 10. Only happens about 200 times a year nationwide that anaphylaxis will kill somebody that fast. It does happen, and it has happened here in Siskiyou County. But it's pretty darn rare. So tonight, you're going to learn how to define an allergic reaction and know the difference between a localized reaction is and what a systemic reaction is. And what an allergic reaction is and anaphylaxis. Those are all the same thing with different names. An allergic reaction is in a local reaction, same thing. And anaphylaxis is a systemic reaction, same thing. And you're going to learn what the difference is. You're going to learn about the 5 categories of stimuli that cause people to go into allergic reactions. You're also going to watch a really cool video on the immune system. It's actually the best cartoons I've ever seen. It's just so cool. Describe the 5 categories. We already did that. Explain considerations of when to use epinephrine. So the way that your body, your immune system, when it has a hyper-exaggerated immune response known as an allergic reaction, what it does is it shuts down your airways, it dilates your blood vessels, and that's how it tries to expel or block it from getting your body. Epinephrine does the exact opposite of what an allergic reaction does. It dilates your bronchioles and constricts your vessels. That's why epinephrine is the ultimate antidote to an allergic reaction. So we're going to go over when to use epinephrine and what the contraindications to epinephrine are. All right, the immune system. The immune system's job is to protect your body, and it does it thousands of times a day. We live on an absolutely filthy, dirty planet. And our bodies are under constant attack. And our immune system fights all this. And 99.999% of the time, they kill it and win. But when they don't, we get sick. Any questions? But sometimes when you're not sick and something's not wrong, your immune system will errantly, we've all done it, make an errant accusation of something that's not actually a threat and consider a threat and have a completely over-exaggerated response to it. Your immune system's human also. Any questions? This is a great video. Pay attention.
Every second of your life, you are under attack. Bacteria, viruses, and fungi are trying to make you there. So our bodies have developed a super complex little army of guards, soldiers, intelligence, weapons factories, and communicators to protect you from, well, dying. For this video, let's assume the immune system has 12 different jobs. For example, kill enemies, communicate, etc. And it has 21 different cells and 2 protein forces. These cells have up to 4 different jobs. Let's assign them. Here are the interactions. Now, let's make this understandable. First of all, let's add colors to the jobs. Now, let's illustrate the cells. The central color represents the main job of the cell, while the surrounding ones represent secondary duties. Now, the immune system looks like this. Now, the interactions. Isn't this complexity just awesome? For this video, we will only talk about these cells and ignore the rest. So, what happens in the case of an infection? It's a beautiful day when suddenly a wild rusty nail appears and you cut yourself. The first barrier of the immune system is breached, your skin. Nearby bacteria seize on the opportunity and enter your wound. They start using up the body's resources and double their numbers about every 20 minutes. At first, they fly under the radar, but when a certain bacteria population is reached, they change their behavior and start to damage the body by changing the environment around them. The immune system has to stop them as fast as possible. First of all, your guard cells, known as macrophages, intervene. They are huge cells that guard every border region of the body. Most of the time, they alone can suffocate an attack because they can devour up to 100 intruders each. They swallow the intruder whole and trap it inside the membrane. Then the enemy gets broken down by enzymes and is killed. On top of that, they cause inflammation by opening your blood vessels to release water into the battlefield, so fighting becomes easier. You notice this as a very mild swelling. When the macrophages fight for too long, they call in heavy backup by releasing messenger proteins that communicate location and urgency. Neutrophils leave their patrol routes in the blood and move to the battlefield. The neutrophils fight so furiously that they kill healthy cells in the process. On top of that, they generate barriers that trap and kill the bacteria. They are indeed so deadly that they evolved to commit suicide after 5 days to prevent them from causing too much damage. If this is not enough to stop the invasion, the brain of the immune system kicks in. The dendritic cell gets active. It reacts to the signals of the soldiers and starts collecting samples from the enemies. They rip them into pieces and present the parts on their outer layer. Now, the dendritic cell makes a crucial decision. Should they call for antivirus forces that eradicate infected body cells, or an army of bacteria killers? In this case, antibacteria forces are necessary. It then travels to the closest lymph node in about a day. Here, billions of helper and killer T cells are waiting to be activated. When T cells are born, they go through a difficult and complicated training process, and only a quarter survives. The surviving cells are equipped with a specific setup. And the dendritic cell is on its way looking for a helper T cell with a setup that's just right. It's looking for a helper T cell that can bind to the parts of the intruders which the dendritic cell has presented on its membrane. When it finally finds one, a chain reaction takes place. The helper T cell is activated. It quickly duplicates thousands of times. Some become memory T cells that stay in the lymph node and will make you practically immune against this enemy. Some travel to the field of battle to help out. And the third group goes on to travel to the center of the lymph node to activate a very powerful weapons factory. Like the T cells, they're born with a specific setup. And when a B cell and the T cell with the same setup meet, hell breaks loose. The B cell duplicates rapidly and starts producing millions of little weapons. They work so hard that they would literally die from exhaustion very fast. Here, helper T cells play another important role. They stimulate the hard-working factories and tell them, don't die yet, we still need you, keep going. This also ensures that the factories die if the infection is over, so the body doesn't waste energy or hurt itself. But what is produced by the B cells? You've heard of them, of course, antibodies. Little proteins that are engineered to bind to the surface of the specific intruder. There are even different kinds of antibodies that have slightly different jobs. The helper T cells tell the plasma cells which type is needed the most in this particular invasion. Millions of them flood the blood and saturate the body. Meanwhile, at the site of infection, the situation is getting dire. The intruders have multiplied in number and start hurting the body. Guard and attack cells fight hard, but also die in the process. Helper T cells support them by ordering them to be more aggressive and to stay alive longer. But without help, they can't overwhelm the bacteria. But now the second line of defense arrives. Millions of antibodies flood the battlefield and disable lots of the intruders, rendering them helpless or killing them in the process. They also stun the bacteria and make them an easy target. Their back is built to connect to killer cells, so they can connect and kill the enemy more easily. Macrophages are especially good at gnoming up the bacteria which antibodies have attached to. Now the balance shifts. In a team effort, the infection is wiped out. At this point, millions of body cells have already died. No big deal, the losses are quickly replenished. Most immune cells are now useless, and without the constant signals, they commit suicide, so as not to waste any resources. But some stay behind, the memory cells. If this enemy is encountered ever again in the future, they will be ready for it and probably kill it before you even notice. This was a very simplified explanation of parts of the immune system at work. Can you imagine how complex this system is? Even at this level, when we ignore so many players and all the chemistry. Life is awfully complicated, but if we take the time to understand it, we always encounter endless wonders and great beauty.
All right, that's a great video. Doing great. Huh?
So they have Douglas Adams vibes. Yeah.
The attorney?
No, he wrote the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh, I still haven't seen that. Need to watch it now. Huh? Or read it. They did a movie, didn't
Read
they?
it, it's better than watch it.
It's a better one.
Yeah.
I don't have time to read much. I'll try.
I'd watch it.
The original guy. They really got.
I've read one book in the last 10 years.
What was it?
Trying to read it. Scarlet, I can't remember the name of it.
It's so long ago you can't.
Huh? Yeah, Scarlet Blanket? Red Blanket. It's a good book. It was good. He did well. Then I actually started reading another book, but I haven't finished it. It was also written by one guy named the one of the Floyd brothers. So pretty good book too, but I started reading it like 2 years ago. I also have to read Benjamin and the Wild One. I still haven't read that one yet either. So that's a children's book with lots of pictures, so I think it'd be easy. What? You read it? So here's a question. You read Benjamin and the Wild Ones. Do you know who Riley in that book is based on? No. The Riley that you know. What's the inspiration? You want to bet me on that?
Cheers.
Yep. That's why I got to read it. All right. So that was that video pretty much sums it up in a nutshell. So remember, histamines and leukotrietes are what start the attack. They work with mast cells and heparin to wipe out that threat that may not actually be a threat.
And histamines release those mast cells. That's what causes that smooth muscle constriction, bronchoconstriction, shuts down your GI tract. Vasodilation lowers your blood pressure, shuts down your airways and lowers your blood pressure. Not helpful. Then the liver nutrients make the goop and then plugs your constricted airways. Any questions? It's hard to go that. I really think that that video is awesome. It just explains things so well in such a nutshell. So, local reactions, allergic reaction. You get like a hive at the site where there was an exposure. You might get a little bit of wheezing in your lungs. You'll develop a wheal, so then you can travel easier. And actually, a wheel's a round red hump. As opposed to a systemic reaction, which takes your entire body. That's what true anaphylaxis does. You get severe wheezing, you get urticaria, which means your whole body breaks out into red lumps. Blood pressure drops to being almost non-detectable. And it's a life-threatening emergency that can, in rare cases, kill you in 10 minutes. Any questions? We have time for one more video. This one's not as good. Yeah, we got time. It's only a 2-minute.
Your immune system helps protect you. It does this by sending in special cells, proteins, and natural chemicals whenever viruses, bacteria, or other harmful substances invade your body. This response helps neutralize the foreign invaders. But there are many things that enter your body that the immune system views as harmless. This can include things like pet hair, dust mites, and tree, weed, or grass pollen. In a person with allergies, the immune system mistakes these harmless substances, known as allergens, for a potential threat. The first time the immune system sees an allergen, it reacts by activating special cells. These cells make large amounts of proteins, called antibodies, that are specific to the type of allergen. These antibodies then attach to other immune cells, making them sensitive to the specific allergen. The next time the allergen enters the body, these sensitive immune cells quickly attack. They attach to the allergen, which causes a release of natural chemicals, including histamine. These chemicals enter the surrounding tissue and cause many of the early symptoms of allergies. For a person with allergic rhinitis, which affects the nose and eyes, sneezing, an itchy, runny nose,
One of those
and red,
common types of
itchy,
allergies.
watery eyes can result. 2 to 4 hours later, another response begins as more immune cells become activated and release their chemicals. These chemicals cause inflammation, swelling, and congestion within the affected areas.
All right. Go to break, be back at 8 o'clock. Ready to do good.